The Old Money Book, Living Better While Spending Less. Secrets of America's Upper Class, by Byron Tully. Imagine stepping into your closet on an ordinary Monday morning. The sun is barely up, yet the soft thrum of a city already humming with ambition presses through the window. You reach for your favorite blazer, not because it bears a prestigious label, but because it fits like a second skin, the seams silently testifying to countless boardroom pitches, first dates, and family weddings. Now picture that, by some twist of fate, your net worth has tripled overnight. You haven't lifted a finger, yet the zeros have multiplied. Would you rush out to replace that faithful blazer with something louder, trendier, more obviously expensive? Or would you button it, take a steady breath, and step into the day exactly as you always have? Pause here and feel the tension between those two impulses. The urge to announce our fortune versus the desire to remain unchanged. That tension is where Byron Tully's The Old Money Book lives and breathes. Over the next 60-plus minutes, I invite you into a sprawling conversation, equal parts memoir, mirror, and manual, about how America's generationally wealthy cultivate lives that feel abundant without resorting to theatrics. I'll weave in personal stories, some mine, some borrowed from friends, and along the way, I'll ask you to take stock of your own habits, your own definition of plenty, and your own legacy. Let's begin with a confession. I did not grow up in a marble-floored mansion. My earliest lesson in economics came from a grandmother who refused to throw out jam jars. She scrubbed and repurposed them as water glasses, pencil holders, and miniature vases for dandelions I'd pluck from the yard. Only years later did it dawn on me that her thrift was less about scarcity and more about reverence. If a thing is useful, she'd say, it deserves a second life. When I discovered Tully's book, those words echoed on every page. What he calls old money is, at its core, a culture of reverence, for time, for craftsmanship, for relationships, and for self-respect. Tully, the grandson of a newspaper publisher and the son of an oil industry executive, published the first edition of The Old Money Book in 2014, then expanded it in 2020. The work has since become a quiet classic among readers hungry for substance in a world obsessed with surface. It breaks life down into two grand arenas: core values, the invisible software that drives our decisions, and visible habits, the hardware the world actually sees. We'll explore both, lingering long enough in each room to notice the artwork on the walls, the well-thumbed spines in the library, and the hush that settles when confidence is real and not rented. Before we tour the estate, Tully asks us to memorize 7 pillars: health, education, work ethic, etiquette and manners, financial independence, family and marriage, and privacy. He later plants an 8th, optimism, like a sapling in the garden, insisting that it, too, is a renewable resource. These pillars aren't commandments etched in marble. They're living practices. Think of them as heirloom seeds. Tend them well, and they feed generation after generation. Close your eyes and picture the wealthiest person you know. How energetic is their gait? How bright is their gaze? If old money has a first fortune, it is the body. My friend Caroline, raised in a family with a name that graces university libraries, once told me she never misses her 6 a.m. lap swim. Not because she idolizes a swimsuit figure, but because water is her daily board meeting with herself. Tully's archetypes favor lifetime sports: tennis, rowing, equestrian pursuits, hiking, endeavors that marry exertion with joy. They treat alcohol as a condiment, not a sport, and they schedule annual physicals the way other people schedule tire rotations, automatically. Reflection prompt: how would your calendar look if energy were your primary currency? What sleep debt, what sugar habit, what tolerated ache would you pay off first? When I visited my first old money home, the dining room walls were lined not with mirrors to multiply the chandelier's sparkle, but with books, row after row of leather-bound, dog-eared companions. After dessert, the hosts peeled volumes from the shelves like trusted friends and debated the merits of Stoic philosophy versus modern behavioral science. Degrees were mentioned only in passing. Ideas hogged the spotlight. Old money reads the way others scroll, habitually, hungrily. They don't accumulate diplomas for the frame, but truths for the mind. During college, I worked as a cater waiter at alumni dinners. One evening, a silver-haired donor quizzed me on Greek myths while I refilled his sparkling water. He wasn't testing, he was inviting. Our 15-minute exchange ended with his handwritten list of books to anchor my freshman year. That scrap of paper became a lighthouse in a noisy curriculum. Ask yourself, when was the last time you gave someone a reading list as an act of friendship? It surprises outsiders that many heirs take summer jobs stocking grocery shelves or cleaning park bathrooms. The exercise is less about the paycheck than about muscle memory. Arriving on time, taking instruction, meeting a need. My first job, scraping gum from movie theater floors, taught me speed, precision, and the zen of mindless tasks. Tully reminds us that competence is magnetic. Show up, do good work, say thank you, repeat. Over time, the reputation compounds faster than any brokerage account. Imagine a family crest that reads, "First, earn your keep." How would that reshape your approach to even the most mundane assignment tomorrow morning? My grandmother's jam jars weren't her only legacy. She also drilled into me the art of the handwritten note. In an era of disappearing messages, ink on paper feels revolutionary. Old money wields courtesy not as theater, but as lubricant, reducing the friction of human interaction. They practice punctuality, low-volume speech, and the kind of eye contact that says, "I see you," not your resume. The payoff isn't popularity, it's ease. Walk into any room with manners in full bloom and conversation becomes a garden party. Ask yourself, which small gesture, standing when someone enters, using a person's name mid-sentence, sending a thank you text before the Uber has pulled away, could you ritualize this week until it feels as natural as breathing? Tully devotes entire chapters to money mechanics, but the melody is simple. Live on less than you earn, invest the surplus, and protect your downside like a castle moat. A mentor of mine inherited a century-old downtown building. Rather than cashing out, he renovated the first floor into rental shops that now fund scholarships for nieces and nephews. He calls it his perpetual motion machine. During a recent market dip, I phoned him in mild panic. He laughed gently and said, "Markets are weather. Principles are climate. Old money dresses for the climate. They diversify, hold cash for stormy days, and treat repairs on shoes, roofs, relationships as cheaper than replacements." Reflection prompt. What percentage of your last raise went to future-proofing rather than lifestyle inflation? If the answer stings, congratulate yourself. You just found room to grow. Tully portrays marriage as both romance and merger, steeped in mutual respect and clarified expectations. Family meetings, yes, with agendas, address everything from estate planning to holiday traditions. The goal is alignment, not control. In my own family, we borrowed this practice last year, gathering 3 generations around coffee and spreadsheets. Awkward? Yes. Liberating? Absolutely. Secrets lost their sting and plans gained coherence. Take a moment. Who in your inner circle needs clarity on shared goals? What conversation are you postponing because it feels too grown up? That conversation is the doorway to a sturdier future. Privacy, the luxury of a low-profile scroll. Any social feed, and you'll find people live streaming their breakfast croissants. Old money rarely does. Privacy isn't secrecy, it's stewardship of attention. They know that once you broadcast a moment, you surrender a sliver of it to strangers. They prefer life in high resolution rather than high exposure. Practice. Experiment with a 48-hour social blackout the next time you travel. Journal instead. Notice how places smell, how bread tastes without the urge to photograph it. After the economic upheaval of 2020, Tully appended optimism to his value roster. But this isn't pastel-colored positivity. It's earned optimism. The kind that recalls great-grandparents who survived wars, recessions, pandemics, and still set long tables for Sunday supper. It's hope salted with memory. When my city flooded 2 summers ago, I watched neighbors, some affluent, some not, form bucket brigades across previously invisible social lines. Crisis stripped away the costume jewelry of status and revealed raw character. Old money, new money, no money, it didn't matter. People with practiced optimism met the moment with steadiness. Ask, what story from your family's past proves resilience? Tell it at your next gathering. Make it part of the household mythos. The visible habits. Where values meet the world attire is the most obvious costume of value. Old money favors garments that age into patina. Tweed jackets, chambray shirts, loafers that roll gracefully. My own experiment in this realm began when I tracked cost per wear. The $30 fast fashion shirt disintegrated after 8 washes. The $180 Oxford I thrifted for $25 is still crisp 5 years later. The math is embarrassingly simple. Diction and grammar follow. Language, Tully says, is currency. Spend it precisely. Years ago, I recorded my own voice to identify filler words. The exercise was excruciating. The payoff was freedom. Furnishings. Walk into an old money home and you'll rarely find a matching living room set. Instead, pieces accumulate like friendships, slowly, each with a story. The desk I'm writing on belonged to a retired cartographer. Its surface bears compass dents and ink ghosts. Every scratch invites wonder. Reading as ritual. I set a lamp to turn on at 10 p.m. as my cue to close screens and open pages. The ritual turns reading from intention into inevitability. Housing. Choose location over ostentation. That wisdom guided my spouse and me to a modest duplex within walking distance of parks and libraries, instead of a flashier home whose mortgage would have handcuffed our weekends. Socializing. A friend of mine hosts Wednesday Soup, an open invitation for neighbors to drop by between 6 and 8 p.m. No RSVPs required. This gentle consistency forges community without Instagrammable clownery. Cars. Picture an heir stepping out of a 12-year-old Volvo, door closing with a dignified thunk. Reliability is the new horsepower. Travel. Choose depth over breadth. I once spent 10 days in a single small Italian town, learning names of bakers and street cats. I remember more from that trip than from any jet-lag sprint through 5 capitals. Staff and services, discretion matters. A trusted accountant, a longtime tailor, a mechanic who knows your engine's quirks. These relationships are partnerships, not transactions. Yes, critics say Tully romanticizes privilege. I say he democratizes it. These principles cost less than flash. Manners are free. Library cards are free. Silence is free. Discipline earns interest. Audit the 8 values. Rate yourself 1 to 5. Which pillar wobbles most? Choose 1 micro-habit per pillar. Something so small failure feels silly. 10 push-ups. 1 page of the Federalist Papers. A weekly handwritten note. Tracking every cent for 30 days. A Sunday dinner with no phones in the dining room. A social media Sabbath. Automate what you can. Standing calendar invites for checkups. Auto transfer to savings. A recurring audiobooks download aligned with commutes. Reflect monthly. What felt lighter? What still drags? Adjust, so we return to that blazer hanging in the dawn light. The fabric bears witness to your life so far. Wealth might magnify its silhouette. Hardship might test its threads. But the blazer, like the core of you, holds steady if the stitching is sound. Byron Tully hands us needle, thread, and pattern. The rest is practice. My hope is that, after this deep dive, you'll reach for your own metaphoric blazer tomorrow, not because it signals riches, but because it signals readiness. Live better. Spend less. Keep it old.